You know, when I started this channel less than a year ago, I had no plans or wild ideas for it. I expected a couple of videos to be watched by a couple of people, and that would be the end of it. Hi, my name is Joe, and this is my YouTube channel. With more than 2,000 subscribers and over 60 videos, it's become much more than I ever could have expected, and that's thanks to you guys. Without your support, it would have ended a long while ago, and apart from a couple of trolls and people without any life, this has become a success so far. So what's today's video about? It's certainly not a video that I planned for or ever expected to be requested, but for some reason a number of you have asked me to talk about myself, the cars I have, my passion for the cars, and what my plans are for the channel. I'm no movie star, so this is the point where you stop watching if you're not interested in what I have to say, and that's exactly what you should do rather than bitching about stuff that you don't like. There is a story to tell for those of you that are interested. I asked Tom Cruise to play my part in the story, but due to COVID lockdown, he was unable to stand in for me. Thanks to trolls and other sad people on the internet, I don't like to share private information about myself online. Those of you that know me personally will be able to tell the sort of person that I am, and if you don't know me personally, I hope that you can judge the real person that I am rather than listen to gossip on feedback from people who do not know me. During this video, I will be showing some of my car collection and my collection of parts. This is not to be a show-off or to say that I have more than you. There are people out there with bigger collections than me and better cars than me. I will be showing my collection so that you can see my passion for these cars and the commitment to keeping them going for as long as possible. My story actually starts in the late 80s and early 90s and the chance meeting with this car. This is a very early model 1990 3000 GT SL 3-litre V6 naturally aspirated engine with leather seats and ECS. Now around that time I was working in the States a lot in the electronics field, and I fell in love with this car as soon as I see it. By the end of the day it was mine and I never looked back. Now you Americans, you're never going to understand how special this type of car is to a Brit. Back in those days, while you were driving your Mustangs, Corvettes and Firebirds, we had Ford Escorts and Ford Capris and similar cars to that. So to me this was like going from a paper plane to a space shuttle. With anything you love, you cherish it. And despite 108,000 miles, the snow and ice, the 26 states and 18 countries that I have driven this car through, she is still in pretty good shape. In 1995, I ended my business interests in the States, and despite owning property in Florida and Texas, I had to move back to the UK. I couldn't bear to leave my love behind, so I rented a 40-foot container and shipped her back to the UK with the rest of my belongings. Now, those of you that cherish your car the way I do will know the cost and commitment involved in keeping it in good shape. As the years rolled by, it became harder and harder to get the parts needed to keep things as they should be. Many of these cars started coming into the UK from Japan at ridiculously low prices, and because of the high insurance costs, many of them were being sold off for scrap metal value. I started buying them whenever I could, just for the parts initially, but as the prices started to increase, I began to keep more and more with a plan to restore them in the future. Now, those of you that watch my channel have already seen a couple of these cars, but I thought you might like to have a quick look at some of the others that I have. So we'll start off with my very first car, or my first 3000 GT, and this is it. Left-hand drive, bought it in Missouri in America in early 1990. It's the SL model, which means it comes with the ECS, which some of the base models don't. And it's a bit more powerful than the standard base model. A lot of people have asked me how I keep it so clean, etc. Well, you've on a bad time really to see this car. Winter's now here. It's, well, this morning when we got up it was 28 degrees and frost everywhere, and we had snow during the week. So this time of year it gets put into the garage. Now as you can see, my garage is full of parts. This is my home garage, and literally it is rammed out. So getting this car in the winter is not very easy, but I don't want her outside during the winter, so it comes inside. And being the end of the year, I don't tend to clean it either. She gets cleaned at the beginning of the year. And as I said, people have asked me about how I keep it so nice and everything. It's just general maintenance. At the beginning of each year, I lift up the hood, check underneath, see what's gone rusty and replace it, see what bits are generally dirty and clean them, and just general maintenance. The interior is the ivory leather, which came with the car. I believe it was an extra, but this particular one was in the showroom with the leather on, so it came with the leather. When the summer comes, it'll be a bit of a maintenance project this year. 30 years, she deserves that little bit extra. By the way, all the nuts and bolts all tend to look like brand new. That's because they are brand new. This is an obsession for me. So every year when I go around the car and if I see any bolts that are a little bit rusty or corroded, I replace them with brand new ones. And the dealership that I used to have in America, Don Mealy Mitsubishi by the way, down in Florida, they used to think I was crazy because I was always going in to buy genuine Mitsubishi bolts, and they couldn't see why I wasted so much money on genuine bolts when I could buy any cheap bolts to do the job. Well, I'm fanatical and everything on this car has to be original or as original. So that's it, that's the first car. We'll move on to the next one now. Car number 2, as I said, it's winter, everything's undercover the best I can. This car I bought as a write-off car. It was in a very, very sorry state. I'm going to ask Mitch to post a few pictures of how it came to us. I've been restoring this one now for about 2 years. I'm not in a rush. I do have 3 jobs that I do and very little time for sleep. So getting these videos in can be a bit tricky sometimes, and restoring the cars to the level that I like to restore them takes a lot of time. So this one, if you look at the original picture compared to what it is now, you'll see that I've done quite a lot of work in the engine bay. Looking a bit grubby now with general wind and stuff blowing under there. But this will all come up and it should look, I'm hoping, close to a brand new car by the time it's finished. So that's a twin turbo model, presently undergoing full restoration to as close to original as possible. This one I believe is a Japanese model. It's certainly not the English model. Move on to car number 3. So this is car number 3. Now, any of you that have been watching my videos will instantly recognize this one. It's been used on lots of videos and it's going to be used on lots more videos as we go along. It's another Japanese import, base model, 3 litre, V6. At the moment I've got some Dodge Stealth wheels on it. They're not on there for any particular reason other than they're spare with good tyres, and it was useful for putting on here just to move the car around because it did have some flat tyres. So you're going to be seeing a lot more of this car over the next year, lots more videos to do. At the moment, what have we done? A bit of spray work on the front, a bit of spray work on the back. The back is coming up really nice now, beautiful spray job on that. I always spray every single panel off of the car apart from the roof because I like everything to be done not necessarily as it was at the factory, but to look like it was sprayed at the factory rather than masking off and having masking lines and different shades of paint and all sorts of things like that. So it will look exactly as it was when it was originally sprayed, I'm hoping. So that's car number 3. We'll move on to the next one. This is car number 4. Now this poor old girl, she's been through the wars. I actually bought this from Michelle, who's a member of the forum, and she had a little knock in it, and it's been deemed that it's not worth repairing due to the damage underneath. So this girl will be going to the graveyard soon, but certainly not looking like this, and she's definitely going to pay for herself in videos before she goes to the junkyard. We're going to be fully stripping this car of every last part, but before she gets stripped, we're going to be doing a few videos on here that I don't want to do on the black car, because it's going to mean taking stuff off and damaging stuff that I wouldn't want to damage on a perfectly good car. So you're going to be seeing quite a bit of this car as well over this coming year. Hope to get at least probably 20 or 30 videos out of it, and a whole bunch of parts that are reusable. Unfortunately, Michelle did strip it of any of the really nice stuff before she sold it to me, but there's still going to be some little gems on here. Nothing, but nothing on these cars needs to be fully written off, unless it's so rotten there's nothing there to repair. So all of the nuts and bolts will be recovered, all of the little brackets and trim and all sorts of things like that. We're going to pull it all off and reuse every last bit and piece. Let's move on to the next cars. So now we've moved to a different location to look at cars 5, 6, 7 and 8. I'm lucky enough to have access to this factory unit and somewhere to store some more cars and parts. So car number 5, it's quite a nice car. I was quite lucky to get this. There's not actually that much wrong with it. Little bit of bodywork needs tidying up, and the automatic gearbox is in need of a strip down and rebuild, so that'll be done on a video later on. So that's car number 5. Car number 6, 7 and 8, two are manual, two are manual, one is automatic. These are cars that have pretty much been severely neglected, really badly neglected, and all they need is a full strip down, clean up and put back together with a little bit of paint work. I do have a strict policy that any car that I'm going to rebuild has to have a really fantastic underbody. I will not weld any of the underbody on these cars. My personal view, and it is my personal view, is once the chassis started to go rotten, the car's pretty much a write-off, because although you can patch it up, the real rust is still hiding somewhere in there. And quite often when people have patched them up, they've not always taken care of how the water got in the first place, and you can't see that it's rotting away again. And very soon you're going to have a whole world of pain trying to sort those problems out. So as long as it's got a really good solid underbody, I'll rebuild these cars to look like new again. So that's the case with these two, just pretty badly neglected. This one here actually turned out to be a bit of a gem. I think this is the one. It may have been that one. I think it's this one. We actually bought this from a farmer who bought it 10 years before I bought it. He wanted it as a donor car for an engine. As it turns out, the car he was going to put the engine into ended up rotting away before he got to do the change. But in the meantime, he stuck this out in a field. And over the years, it had been ploughed around the car, and this car had sunk further and further into the mud. So when we went to get it, the mud was actually up to about here, and he had to get his tractor to drag it out of the mud. In addition to that, the tailgate door was missing completely, along with the side doors, if I recall, and all the interior was full of water. The rats had got in there and eaten all the seats, the carpets and everything else. And yet, all I bought it for was a few bits and pieces. It was the right price. But we ripped out all of the interior, we pressure washed everything, and it actually turned out to be that this car was probably one of the most structurally sound cars I've ever seen. There wasn't the tiniest spot of rust on it. So I see no reason to write it off. We put on another door, new interior, and right now this is sitting here waiting for it to go back home for a full paint job and restoration, and I believe this is going to be a fantastic car when it's done. So that's the last 4 of my 8 cars. We're just going to pop inside now, do a quick bit of video on some of the other parts that I've stored here, just so you can get an idea of the amount of parts that I'm now keeping ready to keep these cars in good shape and put them all back on the road in the future. So that's it for now. Let's have a look inside. So to continue the story, what started off as a love became a passion. and has now turned into an obsession. And any of my family members will tell you I am possessed about these cars. I'm just getting a thumbs up from the wife. So Mitsubishi has now discontinued the manufacturing of parts for these cars. And there has been a scramble to buy up whatever's left on the shelf at the dealerships. Any cars that are being written off have been neglected, and there is little to be salvaged from them. Many people are now resigned to the fact that these cars are getting old, and with no parts to keep them alive, it's time to lay them down to rest. But not all of us think the same. There are some aftermarket parts available, and we have people like Robert Evil Empire and the guys at 3SI and many others that are working hard to find replacements. I too have invested large amounts of money in getting parts manufactured. I believe that if someone made it in the first place, someone else can copy it, and it's possible to get an exact replica of the original part and not tell the difference if you're prepared to put in the investment and time. I have had many of the discontinued parts remanufactured, and I enjoy a massive stockpile of new and used parts which will keep me going for the rest of my life. I used to share those parts with some of you on eBay and stuff, but following a hate campaign and threats from people on Facebook towards myself and my children, I've decided that I'm now going to keep all of the parts to myself and just share them with a couple of close friends. So why have I started the YouTube channel, and where is it going? The channel is not about making money. I'm not a mechanic. It's about sharing my experience with others and nothing else. There is one reason for starting the channel, and there's going to be, or is, another reason for continuing the channel. I did a one-off, or one of my first videos, because people were sending displays to me for repair. But they were often broken because they didn't know how to remove them properly. I thought it would be a good idea to make the video to save hours of phone time explaining how to remove them. I then had the demist vents and snake eye lenses manufactured, and once again people needed help on how to fit them. So this was going to be the end of the videos, and that's all I planned for. But in 2019 my life took a new and unexpected turn. I was rushed to hospital with a suspected stroke, and I was in hospital for 3 days before going home. While in hospital they did all the usual tests and scans, and on Christmas Eve of 2019 I had a call from the consultant to inform me that my MRI results were in, and they were showing an inoperable brain tumour. Now this is not the sort of news that one wants on Christmas Eve, but this is not my first time I've been at death's door. In the 80s I was diving in the Florida Keys and had an embolism. My heart stopped 3 times, I was resuscitated before spending 2 days in and out of a hyperbaric chamber in Miami, with unfortunately not much hope of survival. I actually did survive, and it took more than a year to recover. This is the time that I first saw this lovely car after meeting with a lady called Darla who introduced me to the car. Then again in 2002 I was admitted to hospital, again in Florida, with a burst appendix and peritonitis. I'd been doing the man thing by putting up with the pain until I couldn't take it anymore, went to hospital, and it turns out that was a bit of a bad move. This time I spent 7 hours in surgery, 5 days in intensive care, lucky to be alive because it turns out my appendix had burst days and days ago and had eaten most of my insides up. So again, that took years to recover. It's experiences like this that make you think. This is when you can truly understand that our time here is short, and you need to make that time count. None of us live forever, and with 0 chance of recovery from a tumour, I wanted to leave behind something for others and for my family. I had received so much good feedback on the YouTube channel that I thought that this was the chance to help as many people as possible and leave a legacy for the future. While I'm not a qualified mechanic, I do have quite a bit of experience through the years of working on these cars, and that is all I'm passing on to you. just my experience, and you judge for yourself whether the video can help you or whether you need to see someone who knows a bit more than I do. So where's the channel going? That all depends on you. As long as you keep watching and giving good feedback, I'll keep making the videos for as long as my health and finances will allow. I do not charge for the videos. I do not receive any sponsorship for the videos. All I have is a couple of generous patrons who are kind enough to make a donation each month, but I've never actually taken that money from the patron account. The channel is not about making money. Now, at the moment, I have more than 100 video requests waiting to be done, and I'll do my best to do as many of those as I can. I also have many more parts being manufactured, and I'll make sure that I show you those being fitted to the car as and when they come off production lines. There are also a number of upcoming videos that will show you very good detail on the manufacturing and restoration processes and how to make the parts of your car look new again, or make new ones yourself to replace on your car. And finally, I'm now buying up large amounts of machinery and getting together with others to start making our own replica parts. So please don't bury your car yet. It is my wish that every single part will once again be available in time. As I said, this is now an obsession. And while I may not be the best mechanic, know everything, or make the best videos, I am passionate enough to commit to what I say. And while others are spending their time trying to bring me down, I will spend what time I have left helping those that need my help. So that's the story. I hope it answers your questions for those of you that requested it. I want to thank you for watching this and any of the videos that I make. I'm really sorry that Tom Cruise couldn't be here today, but you probably couldn't tell the difference anyway. I hope the videos save you lots of money and help to keep your cars on the road for as long as possible. And I especially want to thank the patrons that have paid money into an account over the last few months, and I hope you patrons were happy with your Christmas gift and the other bonuses that you get from watching this channel and contributing a little. I hope to see you all on the next video. Thanks for watching.